Well, hi, everybody. Welcome back to Breakfast All Day. Vacation time is over. We're back in the virtual studio. I'm Alonso here with Matt and Christy. And I guess the news kind of piled up while we were away. So let's get into it.
It's been a few weeks. I've missed seeing you guys so much. It's so good to see you both look beautiful and tan. You have found a way to get outside, it looks like. Yes?
Not me. I mean, occasionally the balcony has been about it.
Yeah, I mean, I've been spending a lot of time in the pool.
Well, as you should.
It's been a couple of weeks. Real fast, should we catch up on what we've been doing? What have you guys been up to?
Sheltering in place. Not a ton. Like I was just telling Matt, Dave and I had cleared the decks. We had pre-taped some Max Film episodes, and we took time off, and Linoleum Knife took time off. And then right when I took all the podcasting equipment down so we could dust the table, our friends Karen and Winter were like, "Hey, would you and Dave do an episode of Waiting to Exhale for us?" And we were like, "For you, yes." Yeah. So put it all back together. We did that. That was fun. But not much else. I've had my hands full this week just putting through everybody else's Venice and Telluride reviews, because those have been coming in at a fast clip from people who are actually there.
And we're going to talk about that later on in our news segment, the fact that all those big festival premieres are happening. So the FOMO is real on Twitter. Matt, what about you? What have you been doing?
I managed to get a hold of a Xbox Series X a few weeks ago. As some people know, they're really hard to get a hold of because of the chip shortage. I managed to get one. So this last couple of weeks, I'm still doing stuff at MoviePhone, but my free time has been playing a lot of that. Primarily, I also got this thing called the Game Pass. If you guys don't know about it, it's a weekly or a monthly subscription that games that usually aren't first run are free to download and play. So it's like Netflix for games. And it's pretty cool because it gets me playing games that I wouldn't have otherwise played. The one I played a lot last week was called Maneater, where you get to be a shark and eat people and other animals, and it's hilarious.
It sounds like it's intentionally kind of cheesy, like a Sharknado kind of thing.
Totally is. And the voiceover for the game is done by, I'm blanking on his name, Dr. Spaceman from
yes, him.
I don't know.
SNL, from former SNL guy who does a lot of voices and stuff. I knew until you said it.
Right.
On 30 Rock. On 30 Rock, no. On 30 Rock, he was Dr. Spaceman.
Chris Parnell.
Chris Parnell. Yeah. So Chris Parnell is the narrator of this like fake reality series that follows the kind of feud between this shark and a guy named Scaly Pete, who is the Cajun shark hunter that the young shark bit off his arm when it was born. It's ridiculous. It's really dumb.
Do you get bonus points for eating that Kittner boy?
No, not that Kittner boy, but you do eat a lot of people in this, and it's pretty hilarious.
Okay. How about you, Christy?
Sounds fun. So I was in Coronado for a big chunk of August. My sister-in-law and her husband rented a house on Coronado. For those of you guys who don't know, it's an island. It's kind of it's not really an island. It's like attached to land, but there's a bridge that goes over to it.
It's still an island.
It's not, because on the bottom of it, it's attached to like the bottom of California before you hit Mexico.
You could walk there, is what you're saying.
You could go all the way down around.
So it's
a peninsula.
Yes.
It's a really long, skinny peninsula. So they were there for the whole month of August. So we spent like a week and a half there and ran almost every day and went to Midway and just relaxed and got milkshakes and went to the beach and took Baxter to the dog beach, which he hated. Like the waves would come up and he's like, fuck this, I'm out of here. And would like run away from them. And then Nick began middle school. But for those of you who are watching on our YouTube, you can see him behind me. He is home because we are in the midst of a 10-day quarantine because a kid in one of his classes tested positive. And he's so bummed because he did not even get through an entire week. There are dozens of kids who had to stay home because of this. We're going to get him tested on Sunday. He has no symptoms. He seems fine. Well, if he's negative, he can go back as early as Wednesday. If not, it's September 13th.
This has been happening around the country in schools, though, right?
Totally. And there are literally 2 cases in the entirety of our school. Like in the whole of our district, it is 0.015% of our student and staff population. But like they're being super cautious. And so I got a call from the principal and so we're home.
Being New Zealand, and that's a good thing to be.
Yeah, and I appreciate it. And we all feel fine. Just those of you guys listening, we're all fine. Nick's fine. Like we're staying home. But like one thing we're going to talk about today on news is the fact that Shang-Chi came out this weekend in theaters. I was going to take Nick to see Shang-Chi last night just at the little neighborhood theater near us and decided not to because we're quarantining. And like, I guess I could have taken him and we could have sat in the very, very back with masks, but like, let's be considerate and let's be cautious and let's do it right. So I have not seen Shang-Chi.
I have not seen Shang-Chi either because Disney would not send out links to critics. They pretty much insisted I was given the choice of going to the premiere or going to several screenings that happened, I think, on the lot. And I'm not doing that right now. The numbers in California, while tidily, steadily, slowly improving, are still pretty crappy. I've had 3 close vaccinated friends get sick with symptoms and stuff. And, I've just given my age and other factors. I'm not going out to screenings right now. And so, after all the time that studios finally broke down, we're like, okay, fine, here are links so you can review our movies. Now suddenly they decided, nope, everything's back to normal and it's all going to be theaters. And, and because this is a movie that they weren't going to premiere on Disney Plus, that it was solely in theaters, they also insisted that the critics see it in theaters. And so as such, I haven't seen it.
It's so short-sighted. They totally could have sent us links.
Yes,
we got links for every other big Disney and or Marvel movie. Except not Black Widow, right? They made us go see Black
that's
Widow.
right. I did see Black Widow during that brief window of leaving the house. Yeah,
me too. But like they absolutely, if they wanted to, they could have sent us links. Same thing's happening with the card counter next week.
I think they did. Didn't they do link? I think they did do links for Black Widow.
I saw it in the theater.
No, I had to see it in the theater. I don't know.
Where'd you see it, Matt?
I saw it at home, but it might have been that morning.
I think you watched it that morning.
Oh, maybe so. Yeah,
I think so. But like the card counter, this new Paul Schrader movie with Oscar Isaac and Tiffany Haddish, like they're insisting that I go see it. And I'm like, my kid's in a 10-day quarantine. I don't feel good about doing that. And I think for all of us to be safe, you should get me a link. And they're like, we'll find out if we can do that for you. It's like, yes, you can fucking do that for me. I think you can send me a link.
I mean, I was told that I would have to go see it if I wanted to review it out of Los Angeles for its premiere at the Venice Film Festival, which again, didn't feel safe doing. And so, if it's about to open and they don't send me a link, I won't be seeing that either.
Yeah, I didn't see it. I'm not really wild about going to a screening with anyone. Like I would, if they were going to do a screening with like the 2 of you, sure.
Yes.
Right. But the other thing is, I don't want to have to wear a mask in a theater for 2 hours. Right. Like that's part of it. Like, don't talk to me about, and this, I think we talked about this a few weeks ago. This is what I think that some of the whoever's talking like, oh, it's the theatrical experience. The classic theatrical experience is not having a mask over your face for 2 hours. It's being comfy. So
all other things being equal, that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. I grant you it sucks, but it's just the notion of like right now, it is, I think unless you are young and healthy and can deal with the fact that even as a vaccinated person, you could still come down with the Delta variant. Like, it's ridiculous for them to demand that critics put themselves in that position right now, just to talk about these films.
See,
I do our jobs.
I understand your point of view. The 2 times that I've gone to see something, or maybe the 3 times, at least the last 2 times I saw something in a theater for a screening and wore a mask, I found myself kept thinking like, how soon can this be over so I could get the mask off?
Were you distracted by it?
I was distracted by it because it's hot and it's uncomfortable. And it just made me think like, this is not the way a director or anyone working on this movie wants us to see it. So
it's that whole balance of like, how do I have the mask on my face, but also my glasses on my eyes so I can see this movie and like not have it be steamy.
Right. Well, that's what those little nosy crimp things are for. But yeah, no, Anyway, the what this boils down to is the studios could be providing us with links the way they have been for the previous like 18 months or so, and for some, I don't know why reason, they've just suddenly decided that that's not going to be a thing anymore. I mean, it's not like they can point to, oh, look at all the piracy that happened because film critics were putting black market versions of movies that had our name plastered all over them, which the links always do. Like, there's no good reason for this.
I a little bit, I don't know about Disney specifically for this one, but we'll talk about some of the dates that got moved. I have to imagine some of this right now is because CinemaCon happened just last week. And so the studios have to act like they are pro theater, at least while that convention's going on.
Interesting. But like, okay, Telluride and Venice are happening now, and premieres of big movies like Dune are happening now. And you see, like on the red carpet, you see all of them with masks on. I would assume that they're also sitting in a theater with masks on, correct?
Yeah, I don't know what they've been doing about capacity, if they've been, like roping off every other row or whatever. But yeah, those screenings are still happening as screenings in rooms with people. So plus the travel to get there for most people also. So like, yeah, those were not going to be on my agenda this year.
So Dune, Spencer was another one of the biggies that just premiered at Venice the past day or two. It was happening is what always happens is the breathless hyperbole and the mad dash to be first on Twitter with your thoughts.
Have you guys watched that Spencer trailer yet?
Yes.
Holy shit, does she look like Princess Diana? I mean, damn.
I haven't watched yet. I've been trying to avoid the reviews, but I've seen some headlines floating around, and the word camp is already being bandied about, but who knows?
At some points, like more so than Jackie. I think what I understand from the reviews I've read is that as it delves into her sadness, it gets kind of campy. But I'm here for that because Claire Mathon shot it and Johnny Greenwood did the score. So I'm down for all of that.
Yeah, no, I'm real curious about that one. And it's the explanation that we have to do every time there's a Kristen Stewart movie for the people who still just think of her as the Twilight girl. It's like, no. You take a look at the last decade. Like, she's actually one of the most interesting actresses working.
Yeah, same with Pattinson.
Who's still saying that? Who is saying that though?
People
really?
I know,
assholes.
People I know. No, well, people I know who should know better. But granted, who maybe don't live in a big city and maybe missed Clouds of Sils Maria, when it opened, that kind of thing. But
or personal shopper,
exactly. Yeah. But or Seaberg. But if you're paying attention, yes, absolutely.
And Pattinson's the same way. They're doing the same thing to him.
For sure. Yes.
Anyway, so that's all happening. How do you guys deal with the FOMO of not being there for the initial mad rush?
I mean, I miss it a little because I got to go to Venice for about 6 or 7 years, and there is something great. It's not just necessarily just about being first out of the gate. For me, it was more the opportunity to see a bunch of movies that I had managed to not know anything about. Like I remember going into The Shape of Water with no idea what it was about. I went into Downsizing with no idea what it was about. And so that's a lovely thing to be able to do, because by the time movies open here, there's no escaping unless you really bubble yourself off from things, a lot of like the log lines for movies and stuff. It did suck not being at Venice the year that the new Almodovar premiered there. I will admit that. I really wish I could see that. I can't wait to see that movie. But it's again, it's like it's not just the having to be in Italy right now, but it's the flying through various airports to get to Italy right now, where I just think I'm good here.
What about you, Matt?
Pilot on to the depression. I love going to the film festivals. I love going to the conventions, like the various Comic-Cons. Like that's one of the real perks about this career. I really miss going to see the movies and, being in the house all the time. Yeah, it's depressing.
Yeah.
And it's a bummer.
Yeah. Well, hopefully this time next year, things will be vaguely normal.
Oh yeah, I'm sure everybody will start taking this variant seriously, getting vaccinated,
Right.
And there will
wearing their
variants
masks
coming up. Heaven knows.
Yeah, I mean,
We'll get to the Omicron Xi Pi Omega variant. No, but
they'll just start
kids,
using numbers because they run out of letters.
But kids will be vaccinated. Like Nick is 2 months away from being able to get vaccinated, which is why he has to be quarantined right now. Yeah, as far as if I were younger, I think I would have more FOMO about all this stuff. But for me, like one thing I did while we were all gone was I turned 49. So I feel like I'm an old person, and I'd rather like make sure my kids' homework gets done at this point and just like be here with the dog and my husband and like be gone for 2 weeks. Like I don't miss like the being gone and being in the hotel and like the bad sleep. I'm old. I like my schedule.
I hope we can have some
Yes, the youngest person on the show complaining about being old. Thank you.
I hope we can do something fun for your 50th next year. I'm bummed I'm not going to get to go out and hit the road to promote my new book as much as I had hoped to, but it is available for pre-order. It's been pushed back from September to October because it's in a canister somewhere that has been everything that's being shipped is backed up. But yeah, I'll be home for Christmas movies. I got my own copy, which is very exciting.
Nice. And, you still got time to promote it. We still have time.
Nice. I'll be zooming it like crazy.
Speaking of the theatrical experience, Patty Jenkins says something kind of dumb that pissed people off. Did you guys see this?
Yeah.
She's going off about streaming and how I don't hear about any of these streaming movies. Are they even real movies? They don't sound like real movies in this interview that she did. And it just made her sound kind of, I don't know, tone deaf, given that Wonder Woman 1984 opened streaming.
Well, and I'm sure that's her POV that she feels like it didn't get the push that it would have gotten. It didn't sort of land with the sort of cultural resonance that it might have otherwise. And sure, maybe not. But I liked Mark Harris's response on Twitter because he has a point. I mean, this is sort of about how these companies work. He said, a streaming service that puts out 60 to 70 movies a year, most forgettable, but a handful, good or great, is functioning much more in the way movie studios did in their heyday than a contemporary studio that makes 10 or 12 terrified bets on existing IP each year.
Oh.
And it's true. I mean, if you look back at like, in the 30s and 40s, 50s, even like what Warner Brothers and MGM and those different studios were doing, they were throwing a lot of things to the wall. They had low budget movies. They had big budget movies. They had, all the genres covered. They had, and so, I mean, I think Netflix is closer to that formula. Are we all talking about, whatever kind of movies that come and go? No, but they definitely are a handful a year that land with an impact, whether they're Oscar bait or they're like an Adam Sandler comedy that a lot of people watch. They've certainly, brought in a lot of foreign films. You got to dig to find them, but every week there's new ones,
Yeah. And not all old movies are worth remembering. I mean, that's the other thing is, there's a lot of people who are like, oh boy, they don't make them like that anymore. I'm like, I don't know that we necessarily
like too. Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, they used to make some shitty ones too. And no, I mean, this is one of the things we used to talk about way back when I was a tour guide at Universal. Like, you drive through the Western sets and there's a point where they call it 5 Points, Texas, because there's 5 roads that go on. And one of the things we always talked about is back in the silent days, they were shooting 5 movies at once. So, and back then Universal was cranking out dozens, if not hundreds of movies a year, just cranking them out. Mm-hmm. So yeah, like yes, there's Netflix is absolutely acting that way. It's also close to like the television model where you had a bunch of stuff happening on TV too.
And I think you can't really argue that, as people on Twitter have been responding, like, The Irishman and, what was
Roma,
the Charlie Kaufman movie, whose name is now just leapt out of my head. The one with Jesse Plemons and Jesse.
Yes. God, we're dumb.
I'm thinking of ending things. I'm thinking of ending things.
Thank you. Like
the one I didn't even see.
These movies got talked about and were discussed and were very much a part of, the conversation. So yeah, I don't think it's fair to say that just because a movie premieres on streaming, that it just kind of, dissolves into dust.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry your movie didn't get a wide theatrical release in the middle of a fucking global pandemic.
Exactly.
Oh, well.
However, I don't think it would have gotten better response if it had just been purely theatrical. I think, it is what it is, and we judge it on its merits, regardless of where we saw it. So anyway.
Yeah, I'm not sure a big screen would have necessarily helped that particular movie.
It would have helped the Chris Pine trying on parachute pants montage, I'm sure. Would have been so much better. So you mentioned earlier, Matt, about some of the movies that got pushed. Some biggies, a couple of them starring Tom Cruise. So Top Gun Maverick is now going to open on May 27th. It was supposed to come out this November 19th. Mission Impossible 7 now moves from May 27th to September 30th of next year. Jackass Forever has moved from October 22nd to February 4th of next year. And Ghostbusters is now taking that old Top Gun spot. They're moving from November 11th to November 19th. So, I assume more snowballing is going to occur as things remain like this.
Yeah, obviously some bean counter at the studio has done the math and figured out not just that U.S. theaters aren't, they may be open, but they're not at capacity there, and the public isn't necessarily going back to theaters in the numbers they like. But they also have to, for a movie like Mission Impossible 7, you have to take into account, well, how's Australia doing? How is Japan doing? How is Korea doing? How's, China and all these different parts of the world? And they made the decision, we have to push back. And so it's a little dispiriting because now the experts are telling you this isn't getting any better anytime soon, or not better enough. It's that thing of the auto recall, where they only do the recall when they figure out, they calculate the cost of not doing the recall,
Well,
so,
I think the announcement's also a little bit related to, again, CinemaCon just happening. Coupled with, especially for the Tom Cruise movies, Tom Cruise can't have tepid openings for those two big franchises.
Right.
He just can't, right? Like that. And I almost wonder how much he was involved in begging Paramount to push him back.
Well, he's got, I'm sure, a giant back end on both those movies. So I'm sure he has a say, I'm
a little surprised that Jackass got pushed back, though.
That you can watch at home. It originated on television.
You would think, although Jackass will probably be a lot funnier in a theater full of people.
True. But yeah, it does, the kind of thing that Paramount Plus would just be all over, and that would be that. But look, Paramount, they've seen this coming for a while. They're the ones who took Clifford the Big Red Dog off the schedule entirely. So, I think we're looking at, back, you remember when F9 got pushed forward an entire year, they were like, all right, we're just going to not deal with this for a while. And so, I think if things are going to keep hopscotching forward, if the numbers don't really start picking up, and if the vaccination numbers don't get better and the hospitalization numbers don't get better, this is just going to be the thing we see for the next, however long we have to see it.
All I'm going to say is that if Clifford doesn't hit theaters, then fuck everything. Then the whole,
what's the point?
Then up is down, wrong is right.
Big red dogs and big red cats living together.
Right. If you can't get Clifford on the big screen, then what is even the point of watching anything?
I hear you.
What is the cinema?
I was going to say, I should have mentioned this.
Martin Scorsese will be so mad.
Right? He wants to see Clifford with the sound design the way it was intended. Indeed. You want to hear the galumphing of his paws.
He's too big for the small screen. God damn it.
And that is your tagline right there, Matt.
Exactly. Clifford can't fit on your phone.
I was going to say, I should have mentioned this back when we were still on Shang-Chi. At some point, the three of us will see Shang-Chi.
Yes,
you guys who were listening and watching were also nice to chime in and say that you are happy to wait with us. So at some point, maybe Disney will figure their shit out. Right. Well, no, but at some point, maybe Disney will figure it out and they'll determine, okay, we really should have put this on Disney Plus.
Well, I think we're, it's the 45-day window is the current sort of industry standard now. I think that it started with Universal and AMC or whatever that deal was.
So mid-October.
So yeah, it'll come around and we will watch it because we will. Look, it's a Marvel movie, it's a martial arts movie, it's a Tony Leung movie. I'm in on all those fronts.
Yes.
I like Aquafina.
Yeah, and
Yes.
Michelle Yeoh.
Everyone. Mike Richards is out entirely at Jeopardy. So this whole thing fell to shit so fast at Jeopardy while we were all on vacation.
God.
So he's named the host. There's this total backlash because he is a bland, mediocre, middle-aged white man. There's also a
But
backlash
like no one even
because
talked about when they were, I mean, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
It was like no one was even talking about him when they were going through the guest hosts, right? Like there was the list of like, oh, well, this, you know, the football player is interesting and Liam Malik is interesting. Like nobody even talked about him.
Aaron Rodgers is the name you're looking for. And LeVar Burton. And and so he's the EP of the show. It's really questionable that he then gets the gig. And then all these like podcast episodes surface and like lawsuits he was involved in when he was still the EP at Price is Right. And like all this like mounting evidence, it was insurmountable. Of course, he can't have the hosting gig, but he was still going to stay on as EP of Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy. And then now in the past week or so, they've said, no, he's just like gone entirely. But he recorded a week of episodes and they're still going to air those when the season begins on September 13th. So the lost Mike Richards files will finally air, and Mayim Bialik, I guess, is then going to step in temporarily.
Yeah,
It's a cluster.
This was so mismanaged the entire time, and then of course now it starts surfacing who Alex Trebek wanted to take over for him, and it's like none of these folks. So
I knew he could do the job, but could he get the job?
I'm forgetting this woman's name now, but she was a Black attorney who was also like a pundit. And that was top of his list. On that list was a guy named Ben Mankiewicz, actually.
It's his dream gig. He's always wanted to be host of Jeopardy or like host a game show. But I think like Jeopardy in particular, he's always wanted.
Yeah, but he's got to show up for things to do.
He's busy. They had a whole rehaul of the studio at TCM,
Yes, and
they made him paint.
They made him paint, and he'll get his hair looks fantastic still. But
I want to know how much of that they actually painted to make it look good, and then said, "Okay, Ben, go stand over there."
They lowered him on a winch. You know, he's in Telluride as we speak.
He is. So that's happening. Rachel Maddow, however, is staying at MSNBC. She had been exploring her options and had various suitors offering to back up the Brinks truck for her. She's going to stay at MSNBC, but starting next year, her show will only be weekly, not nightly. And she's going to do other projects like the podcast that she produced. And she's going to have more leeway to do more big picture things that she wants to explore.
For a shit ton of money.
Good for her.
Yeah, no.
Good for her. Get your money.
Get it.
Alonso, you'll like this. The Hawkeye show is going to be super Christmassy.
I'm very excited.
So how is it going to be Christmassy? Like, what about it makes it Christmassy?
I have no idea.
Maybe it just takes place around that time.
I think it just, I think, it's going to be set during that time of year. And so that means a lot of set dressing and a lot of, twinkle lights and trees and fake snow and all that stuff. And how much
will everybody's heads explode if there is an Alan Alda cameo?
Oh. See, nobody under the age of 40 even gets that joke, Matt.
But we did.
Yes.
Well, he does have kids, right? So maybe there's like a taking your kids to see Santa thing to humanize Clint.
Oh, maybe Santa's involved.
And also could be Santa. There you go.
Maybe Santa's in the mix. Like Santa has shown up in the Marvel comics.
Sure.
Does he have powers?
Come on.
Like beyond bringing toys to children around the world.
Like super speed. He's invisible.
Flight.
Speaks to animals.
Come on. He is the original Marvel superhero.
He's omniscient, or at least knows who's been naughty and nice.
That is true. And he sees you when you're sleeping and knows.
He's like the Watcher, but he does stuff.
You will believe a reindeer can fly.
Speaking of, you guys, are you watching What If?
Yes.
I watched the first one and I need to get caught up.
This Wednesday's was dark.
This week's is really intense. It's really good. It's a Doctor Strange one. Oh, and I love how they get the actual cast. Like it's Benedict Cumberbatch and it's Tilda and it's
last week.
Wong.
And last week was really poignant because last week was the T'Challa one, and he does the voice. Chadwick Boseman had recorded all of that last week. Yeah, that one was really good because I won't ruin it for anyone who hasn't seen it, but it's really good. And it made me think of another show that we're covering.
Oh, okay. Also, we're going to talk about Ed Asner later on, but there's a show on Disney Plus called Doug Days, which is a series of shorts involving Doug, the dog from Up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the last thing Ed Asner did is he voices.
I don't know if it's the last thing he did. If you look at his IMDb, he's got like 10 or 12 more projects.
I know.
Coming up.
It certainly sounds better than Orson Welles' last gig.
Oh, yeah. the animated Transformers movie.
Which that anniversary is coming up.
Ooh.
Exciting.
You got the touch.
There are some new ABBA songs. I'm sorry, ABBA. It's ABBA, isn't it? I've been saying it wrong my entire life. There are new ABBA songs. Are they exciting?
Yes. They're pretty good. They released a ballad and a more up-tempo number. I think I like the ballad better from first listening, but we are promised a new album from them, which is the first one in like more than going on like 40 years. And they are doing kind of a concert in London that involves like holograms and stuff. They released a photo of the four of them wearing like mocap outfits, the
ping pong balls on their bodies.
Yeah. So like if you watch the video for that they put out for the ballad song, they kind of morph into their younger selves and perform as their younger selves, but it's them, being mocapped. And so I'm excited. We've been having an ABBA reunion promised to us for, I think, since the moment they broke up, basically. So this is a huge deal that basically, really, I think it was Anniford and Agnetha who were like, yeah, no, I don't, because, Benny and Bjorn obviously have been busy all this time doing other stuff. But to have the four of them together is exciting. And so I like the new songs enough to where I'm very pumped about what this album is going to be.
I hadn't realized that Benny and Bjorn had worked on Chess.
Oh, yeah.
Oh. Are they to blame for One Night in Bangkok?
Yes, they are.
Is that why One Night in Bangkok exists? That song is going to be stuck in my head the rest of the day now. It's the freaking worst.
Well, that's not even the worst song ever. Come on.
Sure, no.
It's up there.
Somebody I know on Facebook was like, the news about the ABBA reunion reminds me of the time I had to explain to an actual adult that the songs from Mamma Mia were not originals.
That's so sad. We're all so old. Spike Lee, 9/11 truther. Who knew? Let's talk about this briefly.
Oh, well, sure, because it gets crazier. I don't know if you've heard the latest.
That he had to re-edit the documentary?
Uh-huh. Okay. But you know the part after that? What you do this part?
I was going to say that like Spike Lee did this documentary for HBO about New York, and in the 9/11 section, he raises all kinds of questions about what really happened on September 11th, and he questions, the level of heat required to melt steel and all those conspiracy theories. But then he re-edited it to take that part out?
He took that out, but all the people who are getting cut out of the Spike Lee documentary are now going to be interviewed for another thing by fellow 9/11 truther Rosie O'Donnell.
Oh, no. I didn't know that. That's weird. So how is it possible that 20 years later, somebody who is so intrinsically entwined with New York as Spike Lee is, how is this just now coming out that he believes all his conspiracy theories?
I guess nobody asked. I don't know. I've known about some Broadway truthers, so I guess it's a New York thing where there are folks who are convinced that this is all some sort of weird conspiracy. But yeah, we can now include Rosie O'Donnell in those numbers because she's going to be talking to everybody that Spike Lee had to cut out of his HBO 9/11 doc.
I will only slightly play devil's advocate here.
Okay.
And not that I think that Spike Lee is right, but I will say similar to the resistance that I hear reported about African Americans not wanting to get the vaccine, there is a group of people in this country who have historically been lied to over and over and over and over again. And so to me, it's not a huge leap for somebody like Spike Lee to be like, hey, we need to ask some questions. Now, I think that's been settled. And I think that, believing in a conspiracy requires this amazing kind of faith in people in that they can keep secrets at all.
Yeah.
And on that alone, I think right.
Do I think that Dick Cheney could have planned 9/11 as an inside job? Sure. Do I think he did it? No.
Right. Could he have gotten away with it? I don't think so.
Speaking of wacky stuff, Joe Rogan has COVID and took ivermectin. The whole horse pace thing happened while we were gone. Like in the last 2 weeks, people started like going to their local feed store and getting horse deworming medication as a way to fight off COVID. So Joe Rogan, who spouted off all kinds of crazy conspiracy theories about COVID and the vaccines, he got it, as so many people do who are doubtful about the truth of this virus, and took the horse paste, and I guess it didn't work.
But he took a bunch of other stuff too.
Like a vitamin mix.
Well, and whatever, like recidivir and whatever it was.
Remdesivir.
Whatever. Recidivist.
Well, all that matters is
Oxycontin.
All that matters is the owned the libs.
Right.
Right.
I don't know. This is such nonsense. I can't believe.
What was the drug in brain candy?
Oh,
anyway.
Gleeman X.
Gleeman X. That's what I'm going to start taking.
So that happened. A couple more other things real fast, and we'll get on to reviews. The guy who was the baby on the Nirvana Nevermind album cover, the iconic image of the baby floating toward the dollar bill, is now suing the band and Kurt Cobain's estate, saying that he was a victim of child pornography.
Yeah.
Although he himself has recreated that image many times.
Yes.
At various ages.
And he's also pretty much come right out and said, which is not a thing you're supposed to say when you're doing a lawsuit, because it really undercuts your credibility, that basically like they stopped returning his calls. And so he decided to sue them. Like that's really what this boils down to.
Yeah. His name is Spencer Eldon.
Sorry, there's a giant, one of those giant.
I just saw it.
It's one of those giant fig eater beetles, those big green ones that are harmless, but it's like
it's a scarab.
Yeah.
Ron Jeremy was indicted on 30 counts of sexual assault. Like a couple dozen women over the past quarter century have alleged that he has groped them and done disgusting things to them. And so he was in court recently in Los Angeles facing all those charges.
Okay.
Matt and Alonso are just like nodding at me silently, like, yep, move on. So
no, it's not a move on thing. Like,
what else is there to say?
No, I mean, look, like there will be people who are like, well, you were getting paid to have sex with him. What do you expect? Like, no, that doesn't right. Nope. You know, at best, it's like, come on, Ron, like, don't expect it. Like, behave yourself, right? Like,
yes.
Come on.
Don't be gross.
Miles Teller.
Don't be more gross than you are.
Right.
Yes,
he is gross.
And not that sex work is gross. It's that Ron Jeremy is kind of like.
Ron Jeremy's gross.
Yeah.
Miles Teller will not get vaccinated, tested positive for COVID, and it forced them to shut down production on this TV series he is doing for Paramount Plus about The Godfather, about the making of The Godfather, called The Offer. And he plays a producer, one of the producers of the film on it. And so it's this huge cast, huge production. He won't get vaccinated.
Well, that's not going to be great for his career moving forward, unless he wants to go full James Woods.
Yeah. When it costs that much time and money, it's not a good thing. Have you guys seen what?
So I'm guessing he wasn't getting screamed at by Tom Cruise when he was working on Top Gun Maverick.
Oh no, the screaming didn't happen until Mission Impossible 7.
Oh, I thought that was Top Gun. Well, Tom Cruise should call him.
If only, right? If Tom Cruise should just yell at him on the phone. Yeah,
exactly.
I would do what Tom Cruise told me to do if he called me to scream at me. So a couple more things. This crazy Keanu Reeves scam story. It might be one person, it might be various people. The LA Times had a story about this today, about how someone claiming to be Keanu Reeves is sliding into ladies' DMs and flirting with them, and then, eventually asking them for money. It's not really him.
There's the Q rating where like, they find out how recognizable or beloved certain, celebrities are. I think this has to really like, if you're the kind of celebrity that people want to pretend to be to scam people, then obviously you are universally beloved.
But who thinks Tom Cruise needs the money?
Keanu Reeves.
I'm sorry, Keanu Reeves. Who thinks Keanu Reeves needs the money?
Nothing about it makes sense. Why would he be flirting with random ladies on social media?
Why do I get 10 phone calls a day about the final opportunity courtesy for my warranty to be extended?
I got one yesterday saying, "This is the city of Beverly Hills. We have been trying to reach you about a legal matter. Press 1. If you do not, we will come and find you." Like, this sounds legit.
Oh, for sure.
Keanu should be calling people about their warranties.
There you go.
Your warranty is expired.
Exactly.
It's bogus. And then Seinfeld is moving to Netflix on October 1st. Every single Seinfeld episode will be on Netflix starting October 1st. And finally, the beloved Ed Asner has died at age 91. Very sad.
Yes, a legend. Like we were saying before, he worked and worked and worked and worked until the very end. And just on a personal note, I was noticing as I was digging through a lot of Christmas stuff from this guy. I played Santa Claus many times, both in live action and as an animated voice. I got to meet him a couple of years ago at the USA Film Festival Dallas. He was what you would want. He was just charming and funny and really sweet. And yeah, it's sad. We now have two classic sitcoms who only Betty White is the survivor. Protect her at all costs. Wrap her in bubble wrap. Indeed. Make sure she's okay. Yeah, and did so much work for as SAG president, so much work for labor rights and workers' rights. Yeah, and it's like this is a case can be made. People have argued about this over the years that basically he had a hit show that got canceled because people got upset about his being very vocally against Ronald Reagan's adventures in Central America. And so this was a guy who very much walked the walk. He was not like a guy who just sort of showed up at a fundraiser every so often. Like, he was very much committed to a lot of important political causes, and I very much admire that about him. Yes. Ed Asner gone at 91. That's what I have for you for news this week, my friends. A big long catch up. Oof. All right. Well, then good. We leave for a couple of weeks and everything happens. Thanks for watching, everybody. Like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us at BeFastAllDay on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And hey, check out our Patreon at patreon.com/BeFastAllDay, where we are talking about the rollicking second season of Ted Lasso on Apple TV Plus, which is going places. So that's a lot of fun. And that's exclusive to our subscribers. So become one. We'll see you guys next week. Bye. Bye.